Hi, everyone. This is week 8 in Humanities 104, and I'm your host, Cliff Boyer. This will be your final video lecture for Humanities 104, and let me just give you a couple of pieces of information to get you started here. First of all, as you finalize your resumes, we need you to email a copy of that to Kelly Stroud in Career Services. Kelly was the woman who spoke to us on our mandatory Zoom meeting in which we discussed your resumes and professional summaries, etc. And she needs a copy of your resume to put in your file and to begin working to support you in your job search. So if you can email that to kstroud at iot.edu, she would appreciate it. I will have the same information in next week's update as well, along with her email address. I just wanted to give you a heads up that you'll need to do that for us. Also, you should have received reviews of your references and thank you letters. I sent those out yesterday. Overall, they were very good, and a few of you just need to make some minor changes, and you'll be all set with that. And that brings me to the final portfolio. That is going to be due the 15th of November, Sunday at midnight. And that will include your final drafts of your resume, your cover letter, your thank you letter, and your references. And you will upload those to my IoT, and I will look at those and put them together as if they were a portfolio. And I will grade those accordingly. And the final portfolio, as I said, is due the 15th of November. Research papers, it's a slog, but I'm going to be getting through them and sending you my reviews of that at the end of this week, beginning of next week. And the final drafts for your papers are due 11/22/20, which is Sunday at midnight, the night before the week of final exams. As far as this class goes, I will be also scheduling mock interviews that will take place during week 10. They will be on Zoom, and they will be done in small groups. So I will have 3 or 4 of you meeting with me on Zoom, and I will conduct an interview, a group interview with all of you. And I've done this the last couple of terms, and it's worked out really well, and it's been a fun conversation. Today's video lecture is going to cover the interviews and some things that you want to think about in preparation for that experience. And I'm also going to be talking about professionalism on the internet, just making a few brief remarks about some things that you need to think about professionally as you begin to advance your career. So as I said, this is the final lecture, and your prompt for this lecture is please email me a short response to what is PAR, P-A-R, and I will be discussing that in the video. And please provide an example of PAR. And this is going to be one element of the interview that you will want to think about very carefully. So if you can email that to me before Sunday night or by Sunday at midnight, then you will get credit for having watched the video. So let me start real quickly. First of all, I'd like to just talk about online professionalism for a moment, because you are beginning to engage in a professional career. And there are certain standards that you want to think about in order to maintain a good reputation and a solid professional stature within your profession. So things that you need to think about is, first of all, professionalism in email. I'm going to talk about that for a minute. Maybe think about conducting an internet scrub, and we will talk about that. I'm going to mention something about online networking and how you can use that in your job search, and that should cover it pretty much here. So, and if you wanted to follow along, I am using the PowerPoint that is available in my IoT. I believe it's week 7, and it is professionalism online, online professionalism, and it should be in week 7 of my IoT, so you can take a look at that PowerPoint if you have any questions. I do want to talk about professionalism in email, first of all. You want to set up a professional email address, and I haven't seen any really bad glaring examples of something that would be considered unprofessional in your group, but it's something to think about. Usually you want to keep the address simple. And avoid birth years. You never want to divulge how old you are, either in an interview, on your resume, or in any of your interactions with a prospective employer. It's against the law for them to ask you for your age. So avoid birth years in your email address. And mine is so ancient that I wouldn't want to include it anyway, just saying. It's really best if you can use some kind of combination with your first and last name, because then it becomes clear and obvious who you are. If you have something cryptic that is really funny from your past that nobody else will really know about except a few close friends, it's going to be harder to remember your email address, and it may look or appear unprofessional. So take a look at your email address, your personal email address, and consider, should I make some changes just so that I have more of that professional stature in corresponding with future prospective employers, colleagues, and others in the healthcare field and your profession that you will be corresponding with. And along those lines, you want to remember that email communication is formal business correspondence. You want to keep it professional, no emoticons, sorry. Avoid acronyms and internet slang if you can, especially because you're going to be interacting with a wide variety of people of different age groups. Not everyone may be hip to your jargon or your slang as you're using it on the internet. You want to be clear, and you want to be able to communicate clearly with people so that you're understood. Make sure you proofread your emails carefully before they go out. Make sure they're going to the right person. Make sure you're not sending out a blanket email to an entire department when you just want to talk to one person. And one really good rule of thumb is, if you would be embarrassed if your supervisor saw this, don't send it. Once you send an email out, it is there forever. Even if you delete it and you close your account, it is out there in the cyber world. And you don't want to leave a trail, okay, of negativity or unprofessionalism. So again, it is a formal business correspondence. Keep it on that level, and do not send anything that you would be embarrassed about later, okay? Also, you want to beware on social networks, Facebook, Twitter, so on. You want to beware of posting patient information. And this sounds like, yeah, duh, but it's happened. You have to observe HIPAA no matter what, in all facets of your life. So if you're working at a clinical site, or you're working at your job and you're working with a particular patient, and you go home and you start saying something, even if you don't name them by name, but you describe their conditions or give away some other information that is private to them, you could be subject to all kinds of disciplinary measures, including termination. We have had situations come up in the past where this has happened, and that's why I'm emphasizing this. Do not discuss your patients at all on social networks, okay? An internet scrub. You might want to find out what is out there about you and what others may have said about you. I know that there are posts out there on different websites that rate your professor from my various teaching experiences and so on. There are all kinds of things that may be out there about you that you're not even aware of. So Google yourself. See if you come up. See if there's anything interesting on there. See if there's anything you don't want to have out there. There are certain services and probably some apps that can help you clean up your social media and online presence. That's something you may want to look into if you have something in your past that is on there that you'd rather not have a future employer see, a boss see. So check Facebook. Check your privacy settings. Review your timeline, the photos, the notes, etc. Is there anything on there that you need to clean up a little bit? Twitter, same thing. Review posts, photos, etc. Make sure that there is nothing on there that would embarrass you later. And if you can make some changes, delete that, whatever you can do. Of course, it's always going to be out there, but if you can delete that from your account, so much the better. And also consider that with any other social networking site or blog that you may have written, etc. If there's something out there that you think might be embarrassing to you or could cost you your job, then you want to make sure that you clean that up. And I've seen commercials on TV about clean up your reputation online. If that is an issue for you, you need to look into some kind of service like that, probably. So it's just helpful to know what is out there about me. What kind of presence and profile do I have online? And it's something very important to consider. Now, online networking, once you've done your scrub, you're confident with what you have online as far as your profile, you can start utilizing online networking. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. You can build an online resume there. You can network with prospective and potential employers. It's got a great job hunt and research tool. So that is something that could be very helpful to you in locating a job or a position in the healthcare field. Twitter, again, too, create a professional account. Follow potential employers and similar companies, people that you might want to work for sometime. You can go to online job fairs and online job boards as well. And there are all kinds of things out there, tools that you can utilize. And of course, there's the usual search engines like Indeed.com and Monster.com, etc. So those are some of the tools that you can be using. You want to make sure, first of all, that you have a professional email address that clearly identifies you. You want to clean up your email and consider how you're going to present yourself in emails. Remember, they are business correspondence. And I've made this comment in several of your letters, either your thank you letter or your cover letter, where the language may be too casual. I would love to meet with you. Reach out to me. Hey, I can't get a hold of you. Those kinds of things are great in conversation, but in formal business correspondence, it tends to be too casual, and you want to sound professional. All right? I'd ask you if you had any questions, but that's not going to help us right now. So I'm going to move right along to the art of interviewing. And this is the primary focus of this video lecture. First of all, you have to remember that the first 10, 15 seconds of meeting a prospective employer are probably the most important. That's where you create your first impression. So you want to have a professional appearance where you're wearing professional casual clothing, you look clean and neat, good hygiene, and you look them in the eye. Now, these days, with COVID, you may not have an in-person interview. You may have a Zoom interview or some other kind of teleconference situation. You may do an interview on the phone. So you want to be flexible and always present yourself professionally. Even if it's on a Zoom, make sure you're dressed nice. If you wear makeup, make sure that looks attractive. You want to make sure that you look professional and in charge. Okay, so even if you're doing something teleconferencing or Zoom, please make sure that you're dressed appropriately and that you present yourself in a professional manner. And just remember that nonverbal communication is highly important. How you present yourself. Are you slouched in the chair? Even on Zoom, if this was in person or on Zoom, are you slouching in your chair? Are you yawning? Are you not really fully engaged? Or are you sitting at the edge of your seat with your back straight and looking them directly in the eye, eager to answer their questions? You can convey confidence even if you don't feel confident. And we all feel nervous in these situations, and we all feel a little bit anxious. You may feel your palms sweating. You may feel your stomach gurgling and oh my God, I don't feel good, because the nerves hit. But you need to fake it. And you need to appear confident. And the easiest way to do that is to have a pleasant smile and to look them in the eye and to make sure that you answer their questions directly and specifically and answer them appropriately. If they ask you a question about how you manage your time, you don't want to get lost on a tangent about something else. You want to talk about how you manage your time. Okay? So those first 10 seconds are really important because you're establishing your first impression, largely based on your appearance and how you hold yourself. There's a really great TED Talk about power poses. And if you just Google YouTube, power poses, TED Talk, it'll come right up. I can't remember the woman's name off the top of my head, but she talks all about how before you go into an interview, do something that makes you feel strong and powerful. Power poses, like someone who's just won a race, or someone who conveys strength. And It's really funny. It does change how you feel and how you present yourself. So 5 minutes before you go in, you might want to do a couple of power poses and just, make sure that you feel big and confident. All right. Now, one of the things that you are going to be asked to talk about probably in your interview are soft skills and hard skills. And I've been talking about this a bit throughout the term. There is a list available in my IoT in one of the early weeks that tells you the difference between soft skills and hard skills. Soft skills are going to be more of those interpersonal skills, how well you communicate, how well you get along with other people, what kind of attitude do you bring to the table. You want to make sure that in your interview, you give due credit to your soft skills and your hard skills. Your hard skills should be listed on your resume. So here's your chance to fill in the blanks about, well, I'm a really organized person. And this happened at the last place I worked where I had to do this. That is a really good example of presenting a soft skill that will do you credit. So have a list in your head, if not in some cheat sheet of your soft skills to remind yourself of the things that you want to emphasize in your interviews. Now, I also wanted to talk about transferable skills. And these are skills that are learned in one environment, but that you can easily transfer and use in another completely different environment. So a transferable skill might be leadership. I was a supervisor in this previous job working for McDonald's. I would be more than happy to train to be a supervisor or a shift leader at your facility, or maybe a floor manager of some kind. If you have that kind of experience, that can be transferred to this new profession that you're using, and or that you're getting involved in, and that would be a skill that would be highly valued. Customer service. Yeah, I worked in retail for 5 years, and I have all kinds of customer service skills in resolving customer complaints, etc. Wow, that's going to go a long way too, because those same customer service skills can go a long way to benefit you and serve you well as you work with your patients. You are providing them with customer service as well. That, again, is a transferable skill. So can you identify some skills that you've learned in your other jobs that at first glance you may not think would transfer to the healthcare field, and actually figure out a way that they do? And you want to emphasize those in your interview as well. They're highly valued, and some of them would include customer service, leadership, problem solving, teamwork, time management, organization. Those kinds of things are good transferable skills. Remember that. And that is something I'll be looking for as I conduct my interviews. Now, to back up all of these assertions that you're making about yourself, I'm organized, I have supervisory or leadership experience, etc. You also want to be able to provide examples. And this is where PAR comes in. PAR stands for Problem, Action, Result. You discuss a problem that may have come up in a previous job. You describe the action that you took to resolve that situation and what were the results. What did you learn from that? And was it successful, or do you need to handle it a little bit differently next time? Even if it had a negative outcome, you can present that positively. Well, it didn't quite resolve in the way I thought it might, and I learned this about that. So if it comes up again, I will handle this situation a little bit differently. Now, ostensibly, that could come across as negative. Oh, I blew it. I didn't handle this as well as I could have. But if you frame it right, like I just did, it could be a great selling point. I learned this valuable lesson from this experience. That's fantastic. That shows a lot about you and how open you are to new ideas, how open you are to new training and to learning new and better ways of doing things. Constant personal improvement. That's an awesome quality, and that's something an interviewer will definitely be looking for. So PAR, problem, action, result. You want to have some solid, specific examples. Have 2 or 3 that you can just pull out at the drop of a hat based on what question you're getting in the interview. And you can anticipate a lot of the questions ahead of time that you're going to get in an interview. And guess what? In my IoT, I have some examples in there, and you can go ahead and take a look at all the different kinds of questions that you might be asked in a specific interview. You can anticipate that you're going to be asked about your strengths and weaknesses. And that's why you were asked to do that exercise, to get you to start thinking about, if the interviewer says, so tell me about your strengths. You've got 3, maybe 4 that you can pull up at the drop of a hat then. Well, I'm very strong in this area. I do this well, and I enjoy doing this, and have always been successful with that. Have some examples, though, too, some solid, specific examples. I had a lot of customer service at that previous job, and one time we had a customer who wasn't happy because of something that they did not get. And I was able to resolve that for them. We found the product for them, and we were able to provide that to the customer, and they walked away happy. Wow, that's great. It's a good, solid example of just saying, yeah, I'm good in customer service. I'm so good. Here's what happened one time. You may even be asked specific questions that will elicit a PAR response. Can you tell me about a time when you worked on a team and someone on the team wasn't pulling their weight? How did you handle that? And was it resolved? You might be asked a specific question like that. They're asking you for PAR. So be thinking about some things. Have some examples ready at the front of your thinking, so that you can just immediately segue into an example, a nice story that illustrates and tells so much about you that will help to sell you in that interview. So, things that I've covered so far. You need to think about nonverbal communication and the image that you're presenting. The first 10 seconds are important in creating that first impression. And you want to have a professional, clean appearance. You want to think and talk about your soft skills as well as your hard skills, and your transferable skills, things like customer service, leadership, problem solving, those kinds of things. How can you illustrate that that is something that you excel at? And do you have some examples? Can you come up with a PAR example for that? Communication skills are also very important in an interview. You don't want to ramble. You want to make sure that you're directly answering the question that was asked without going off on a tangent. And when you're coming up with PAR examples, that's a danger. So you want to make sure that you stay focused on, this is the question that I'm answering, because you want to do that directly. You want to avoid slang. You don't want to swear in an interview, and avoid anything negative if you can. That's not to say that you can't talk about something negative, but it's, again, in how you frame it. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago. You may have a situation that was very negative that came up, and maybe you were even disciplined in a previous job. But what did you learn from that, and how did you rise above that challenge? That can reframe that whole situation into something that actually makes you look really, really good. It's all in how you present it. So if you say, yeah, no, I really blew it. I didn't know how to handle this situation, and it got out of hand, and you've just lost the interview and the job. Yeah, there was a situation that came up at work that was really challenging, but, we put our heads together and we figured out to do this, and this is what happened. And we learned this out of the experience. Boom. You've just turned a negative into lemonade. All right. You took that lemon, you made some lemonade, and you might have sold yourself to that employer as, yeah, you want to hire me. Okay. Finally, at the end, you want to make sure that you ask at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 questions of your interviewer. And the best way to prepare for that is to look them up online, would probably be the easiest way. See what information you can glean from that. What kind of a culture or environment do they encourage at their facility? Is it a patient-first facility? How do they approach their work? You might be able to ask some questions at the end there. I saw online that you have a patient-first culture here. Can you talk to me more about that? That shows you're interested in working for them at that facility, that you've taken the time to learn something about them, and you're actively engaged. You have some questions. You want to know more. Always have some questions. And again, in my IoT, there is an example of questions you could ask and questions you don't want to ask. How much money am I going to make? Do I get 3 or 4 weeks paid vacation? How much sick time do I get? Those kinds of questions are not appropriate, especially in an initial interview. When it comes time to hire you, you will have that conversation with your employer. It's best if you can ask questions about your training. So, what are your expectations of me if I were to be hired for the first 90 days? What would my training look like if I'm hired? Those are really good. What can I expect from this? What are your standards for an MA? What are the qualities you're looking for in an MA right now? That's a really good one, because then they can say, well, we're looking for this, that, and the other. That's great, because I do this, and here's an example, and I also am really strong in that, and here's an example. Boom. You just, again, sold yourself in a really productive, effective way, demonstrating that you will be an actively engaged and professional employee. So, questions at the end of the interview are very important. If you get to the end of the interview, and the interviewer says, "So, do you have any questions for me?" and you say, "No," yeah, that's about as far as it'll go. Okay, so you want to make sure you have some good, solid questions. And if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. We can meet on the Zoom tutoring hour, or we can go back and forth on email with some suggestions. I can definitely meet with you one-on-one if you want to talk about the interview, the process, and any of these other items that I talked about today. So don't forget your prompt. What is PAR? And provide an example. Email that to me by the end of the week. And I will be sending out a schedule for mock interviews next week. In the meantime, good luck. Things are a little tough right now with COVID, and we have had to suspend classes on campus for a couple of weeks, but we're going to continue on with this class. You're going to be excellent in your interviews, I can just tell, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up the term with you. So please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great week. Take care.